Welcome back to Munchausen's Proxy, and this is the episode 4 quick and dirty review for The Ark on Syfy channel. Now, when last we left the crew, they had figured out their water problem by mining a comet, and at the very end of the episode, you had the asshole lieutenant who wants to be captain discovering a video that seems to show that the lieutenant that is actually a better captain, at least according to the writers, in a bar fight with a giant dude who she absolutely destroys and then slices his throat with a broken beer bottle. Of course, this gives him all kinds of happy joys since he hates her. So we check into this episode, and there are two main storylines. The first is Lieutenant, Captain in his dreams, Lieutenant Asshole and the Chief of Security, Strickland, putting Lieutenant Garnett on house arrest until they can figure out if she actually killed him. Him being Jasper Dades, I believe his name was, in the first episode, at the end of the first episode. The other plot line in this episode were people beginning to have hallucinations, some rather violently. With the hallucinations, we get muddied glimpses into some of the characters. Lieutenant Lane, who is the asshole lieutenant, would apparently really like to kill Lieutenant Garnett because his hallucination was Lieutenant Bryce urging him to kill Lieutenant Garnett. Then you had the guy who was put in charge of waste management after Genius Girl got promoted, having a hallucination about the woman who recruited him for the ship mission. And apparently they were part of some kind of conspiracy or secret organization or something. And she wants him to recruit Lieutenant Asshole, which he would probably be all for. And then you have the ship counselor having a hallucination where the engineer lady confesses to murdering Jasper Dades. You had Lieutenant Bryce hallucinating that he's deathly afraid the ship doctor is going to discover some kind of medical thing that he is hiding because his medical records are incomplete, shall we say. And then you have Angus, the plant boy, having a hallucination about Lieutenant Garnett in a rather nice outfit. So all of that was rather revealing and interesting to see as the episode went on. The first plot line is resolved to the viewer's satisfaction, but not to Lieutenant Asshole's satisfaction. Although I don't think he'd be satisfied with anything that left her in a position of authority. Apparently, she is a clone who was part of a top secret experiment. And she wasn't the only one. So the person in the video killing the guy in the bar was another clone, and she is on record as having been in London and not Florida when the bar fight happened. And then the second plot line, you have people dropping left and right with whatever is making them hallucinate. And Angus the plant boy figures out that the comet water that they got last episode has some kind of substance similar to LSD in it, and it is eventually going to kill them all. Except, of course, Lieutenant Garnett, whose experimental clone DNA protects her. And so he tells the doc the doc uses her blood to find a cure, but she collapses before she can synthesize it enough to spread through the water system. And of course, Girl Genius figures out what the doc was up to and finishes her work, curing the crew. So that's basically episode 4. And of course, it wraps up with Angus the plant boy running onto the bridge telling the 3 lieutenants that we need to ban bringing spacecraft on the ship because what dissolved Lieutenant Bryce's glove in the last episode was a brand new element he has nothing on record for and nobody on Earth had ever heard of. And he suggests that the ship was either hit by a space rock containing the stuff or they were attacked by some race other than humans that uses the element in their weaponry. And that's how we end the episode. Now, after the first episode of this series, I was pretty sure I was going to be done with it. But I gave it one more episode to see if it was going to get any better. It got better. Not perfect, not great, but better. Syfy can do better. Dean Devlin can do better. Some of the other people on this series can do better. We've seen them do better, and we know their work. So this show is not up to their standards. However, it's not bad. Contrary to what the ratings on Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb seem to indicate. IMDb has it at 4.5 in the US and 3.5 for non-US users. So it's basically at a 4 out of 10 right now. Funny thing I noticed, and I haven't heard anybody talk about it, and you know the Hollywood press loves to talk about them some review bombing, but 1/4 of the ratings on IMDb are 1 stars, and that well outpaces the 10-star ratings. This show is not a 1 star. It certainly isn't a 10, but it's certainly not a 1 star. And yet you hear crickets from the media on, review bombing, trolls review bombing. They love to do that when you have one of the big studios like Disney or Amazon put out something and gets crapped on by the audience. Funny how it only happens for the big studios. Now on Rotten Tomatoes, the ARC is sitting at a 40% critic and 32% audience. But if you click on the top critics button on Rotten Tomatoes, that rating goes up to 50%. I would probably give it somewhere in the range of 5 out of 10. It's improving. It's a work in progress, it seems. At least the trajectory is upward, because we have seen multiple shows of late where you get the first episode of something, and that's as good as it gets. It's all downhill from there. But I think I'm going to stick with the arc for now, especially now that I seem to have an opening in my review schedule, thanks to HBO and The Last of Us dropping out as spectacularly as they have. Man, was that show boring. At least I can say the arc isn't boring. At least not yet. The first episode was on the boring side. But they've gotten going, and the story is getting better and more interesting. The interpersonal dynamics are better than that show. And Annoying Girl surprisingly wasn't annoying in this episode. So we will see. This video went on longer than I thought, and so I'll leave it there. If you like what I do here, please hit the like button, subscribe, share, do all the YouTube things, and it is much appreciated. I will see you next time for a series review of Poker Face from Peacock, and I'll tell you all about that next time. Until then, tschüss.